Metabolic V2. This is a super safe and effective natural anabolic. Not only is this product going to help you increase protein synthesis, which basically means muscle recovery and growth, it also may inhibit myostatin, which is a protein in your body that is known to inhibit muscle growth. This is a complete natural anabolic that works through multiple different pathways, has multiple trademarked ingredients. If you are a natural athlete looking for that edge, Corbolic V2 is what you need. Get yourself some.
Let's go. Welcome to the Pro Physique Code, guys. We got a lot to go over.
Yes, we do. It's an exciting week.
It's an exciting week because it's for the first time ever we're having a pro qualifier in Pittsburgh. The season has really picked up the momentum with competing, and we have basically a mini Mr. Olympia and a mini Miss Bikini Olympia in the same weekend.
Yeah.
These lineups are nasty.
And we really do, especially for the Open. We're missing like Samson and Hottie outside of like the projected top 5.
I was hoping Andrew Jack would do it because he just did a show, but I thought he might sneak in there, but he's not on the list.
Yeah.
But just the way Nick Walker is looking and Michael Krizo is looking, like these guys, like you just want everyone to be like lights out. Look at that. I just see a Paul.
Yeah.
You just see everyone lights out, dude. It's exciting to just think, okay, what are they going to look like standing next to each other? Even Bonac just won a show looking really good. We haven't seen Martin, who's what did he get? 4th at the Olympia? No one's talking about Martin. Everyone's talking about, Nick hasn't even been on stage in like a year and a half, right? No, he won the New York
about
last
a year.
year. Was that last year?
Yeah. It definitely wasn't his best last year. And I this will be his all-time best. I am almost certain of it.
I mean, looking at those pictures that he's been putting out, his waist looks incredibly small. It's his body makes quite the transformation at the end of prep. It's like, oh, he looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. And then you're like, wait, what just happened? It looks like he turned it up.
Yep. When it's the thing, it's like the old adage, it's like you push when you need to push, right?
He's one of the few guys that literally posts updates all day, every day. He doesn't hide. He's like, this is me, take it or leave it. And I love that he's been doing more like just sit down and talk type videos. I think that's good for the sport.
And I like the picture he posted. Most of them are like fasted first thing in the morning too. Like they are actual progress pictures. They are not doctored up. Like
no,
you
they're
see
not.
with a lot of guys, right?
Most of the guys post like gym photos. I'm talking about he's got the ring light. He's got the camera at a bad angle. It ain't favorable, but that's how you know. Like when all three of us will attest to this. When you look good in update pictures, that's when you're ready. Yep. When it's like, coach, it's bad lighting. I know. But when you look good in this bad lighting, that's when you're actually ready.
Oh, absolutely. I've also seen a lot of like, I'm not thinking of anybody in particular. I just feel like as a whole, I've seen a lot of people that like post pictures on Instagram and they know how to work the lighting. And then you see them in person on stage and it's just kind of like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, so it can go in that.
Well, the most famous, without a doubt, is Allison Testu, who like, she has a great physique. But on Instagram, it's like cartoonish proportions because the way the shadows in her suit make her physique look like she has no waist. But then when you see her on stage, you realize that that's actually shadows and her suit, not her physique. It's yeah.
That's why it can be such a slippery slope getting on that Instagram or, any social media platform and looking at competitors posting their updates. Cause like people know how to, even just the lighting on your phone, like changing, the contrast or the brightness, like you can make a big difference. So yeah, and I'm really excited for the bikini lineup because last year, Paul, you and I went to this show together and it was a really good lineup last year. This show is always kind of known for being, I guess, a mini Olympia, so to say. So when that bikini lineup list came out yesterday, I was like, whoa, I would even argue and say it's, in my opinion, deeper this year than it was last year.
Definitely deeper this year.
Yeah.
The difference is, well, no, last year you just had Ashley Kay. That's the difference. Like she's not here this year, which is notable because she's pretty consistently there. But it always has a crazy lineup. One year they had like Laura Lee, Janet Lejeug, like I get the sense that the IFBB is trying to turn the Pittsburgh Pro into the Arnold. That's the feeling I get.
Yeah.
They're making it an expo. They're paying out more money. And it's obviously the home office of the IFBB. So there is that sense of like pride. But it's a show that, you know, we've all gone to this in the past. And every year I'm a little underwhelmed at the NPC show. Like, I'm like, where are all the competitors?
I
Because to
know.
me, as an athlete, I'm trying to put my best athletes. Like one year at this show, I had Ali Vadhauer, I had a girl named Belinda, I had 4 or 5 girls that I thought were going to turn pro within a year or two because I wanted to get them in front of these judges, right?
Mhm.
You literally get Sandy, Tyler, Steve, Bill, all the IFBB, you know, people from and so much so that they actually got rid of the NPC show.
Yep.
It's gone.
Yeah.
They've replaced it with a Ben Weider type natural pro qualifier, which it's interesting to me because maybe that's Tyler saying, hey, that he feels like there's more growth in that area. So it'll be really
Yeah.
curious what the numbers are like because
Yeah.
this last weekend I went to a show and it was a Saturday, Sunday show. I believe they had as many or more competitors on Sunday.
Really.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, I know there were quite a few natural shows this past weekend. I can think of 4 off the top of my head. I know I had 2 girls do one was in Carolina, one was there, I think it was North Carolina, one was in somewhere on the Northeast, and they were smaller shows, but I know the show you went to, Paul, was a little bit bigger. I think the Emerald Cup, the natural show there, was
Mhm.
decently
Huge.
sized. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of natural opportunities to qualify this weekend. So I'll be curious to see what this upcoming weekend brings. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Really, really. And that's, I think that's the idea that it's fun, that we're working towards something that these athletes are actually excited about. That's really what makes bodybuilding fun is like, what's the next step for me? And when you run out of steps, I think that's where people stop competing.
Yeah.
And so this has added a layer between the new division and the natural stuff. There's also Stephanie Ortiz is making her pro debut this weekend in
I
Las
saw
Vegas.
that. I saw
In Las
that.
Vegas. Yeah.
That's
So it's
exciting.
this is the first Ben Weider qualifier.
Exciting.
So all of you natural bikini pros out there, all 9 of you, if you want to compete at the Ben Weider this year, you have to win a natural pro show. Um, so they, you know how they every week they release the list of Olympia qualified athletes.
Yeah.
So this week they released the list of Ben Weider qualified athletes. It had one person on it, Lana, because she won the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And this feeds even into one of the questions, like we're going to do a Q&A today, guys, but one of the questions like I got, and I feel like we get this all the time, is like, is it possible to be a natural bikini pro? And, you know, the answer is yes. Obviously, Lana Dunbar, Brittany Schulman, Deraja Hill, but like, you know, being realistic about it too, there is that genetic component, right? Like you have to have, I would say, the good genetics and good work ethic and time and consistency to get there. But is it possible? Yeah, I mean, there
Yeah,
are
I think
natural bikini pros, not as many of them, but it is possible.
most athletes and coaches, Lexi, don't have the patience to do what it takes.
Yeah,
They want to be on the Olympic
Yeah.
stage at 23, not 27. And
that's the
that's
thing.
the
Yeah,
problem. Well,
people get in a
that's
rush. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And this
people
is,
get in a
you know,
rush for sure. And it's, you know, because like we've used Lana Dunbar as a great example because she, you know, I don't think some people realize Paul, she took like 7 years off of stage between
yeah.
her like, first season and then when she came to you and won her pro card, right? So like,
She
but
won it right away, like bang, 2 shows. And then her first pro show, she was top 5 as a natural athlete.
right,
Yeah.
right. But that was after 7 years of her just taking time away and
Yeah.
still living the lifestyle. And like you said, not many people want to do that. And you know, I don't blame certain people because I know some people they want to eventually, you know, maybe start a family and enter a different phase of their life, right? But like not many people have that patience to just play the long-term game like that, you know? So, but it is possible.
Well, and it's what I find is that the sport evolves based on the people that are competing in it, right? So
Mhm.
what you're seeing now is because the bikini number shrank so much the last couple of years, the sport is evolving. They're going, okay, where do women want to be? I'm probably going to beat this horse dead for the next until I see something change. Is pro bikini is officially pro figure. These girls have more muscle and better conditioning than pro figure had 10 years ago. You don't believe me? Go back and look at the Olympia in 2010, 2011, 2012. Tons of muscle, great shape, but they were not hard. They were not as conditioned. They were just really good athletes. Now these pro bikini competitors, I mean, when I'm backstage, I'm jealous. I'm like, damn, these girls are jacked. And so I think there is like, you know, it takes longer to get there. So there's less people competing because they go, okay, I need to work longer to get there. Or they're just going, not for me. I'm not interested.
Mhm.
You know, I have a odd prediction. Well, not really odd, but I have a prediction on that topic of bikini and figure. I feel like we're gonna see, like, maybe within the next year or two, more bikini pros going to pro figure. Like, I feel like we've seen a lot of like the
Hmm.
opposite. I just feel like we may see a couple of bikini pros go to pro figure eventually. I don't
That'd
know.
be cool.
Yeah.
Listen, some of them have the physiques to do it.
Yeah.
I remember Brittany Hamilton. I remember what show it was. We were just goofing around. I think it was when she won her pro show with me, and she was like, "Look, coach," and she hit a figure front pose, and she had separation in her quads from her hip to her knee. She had lats, and I was like, "I'm pretty sure you'd be like top 5 at a figure pro show right now." That's how lean and hard she was. But then you change it with the posing. So yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, I think obviously there's a big style difference in posing, so to say, if you will. Like, I feel like bikini posing is a little bit more, well, maybe not. I don't know, a little bit more, I guess, graceful, elegant, like girly, right? Whereas figures, I don't want to say it's not as graceful, but it's obviously different style. So, but I do think, I don't know, just random prediction. Maybe I can listen back to this in 2 years and see if I'm right. But I don't know, I could see it happening.
I can see some girls doing that. I don't think many high level known girls would do it just because it's not nearly as marketable of the division, and they're not going to make as much money in that division as they can in the bikini world. That's
Well,
my
and it's
guess with it.
Evan, even to that point, like the last couple shows I've been to, like I think this weekend there was 3 figure competitors.
Yeah.
They've gotten rid of figure at the Arnold. It's not there anymore. The amount of figure pro shows there's a handful. So you're getting like lineups of like 30, 40, 50 pros because that's the only way to qualify for
Yeah.
the Olympia. So what I don't know what's going to happen with the bikini division, because for those that don't remember, back when me and Evan were young pups getting into the sport, figure was bikini.
Everything. Yep.
It was, you did women's bodybuilding, which was they were more jacked than men, or you did figure, which was they were basically bikini competitors hitting quarter turns. They did not have these crazy amounts of muscle. They did not have, jaws to match. And it just progressed over time. And then when girls stopped showing up for figure, what'd they do? They introduced men's physique and bikini. And guess what? The sport exploded. Men's physique and bikini are officially not attainable divisions anymore. So there's even rumors that they're gonna introduce a new entry level men's division.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I don't know if anyone's thought this far ahead. So why are there so few figure pro shows? Because there's 50 bikini pro shows. Well, what happens next year when there's 22 fit model pro shows? There's going
Less
to be
bikini
22
shows.
less bikini pro shows
Yep.
because that prize money is still going to be spread around the sport the same. It's not like there's going to magically be all this new money in the sport for sponsors to and for promoters to pay these athletes. So, you know, and I guarantee you, if there's a fit model pro show and all these girls show up, and then a bunch of girls show up at that show to do NPC fit model, that's literally how figure happened. It just started to like chip away and chip away and chip away until now you have 3 girls showing up for figure. I don't think that's the case for bikini. Bikini's so defined, but they got to be careful with it for sure. They got to keep it bikini.
I'm really interested to see. Well, I mean, we'll never know, but I would be interested to see, like when we were at Girl Power, how many fit model girls there were there. I'd be interested to see if they allowed crossovers, how many would have actually crossed over, and how many would have been in bikini. That's what I'm really interested to see.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll never know
Yeah.
because of how they have it
So
structured.
we'll get into the we're going to preview the Pittsburgh real quick, but I had a competitor on Saturday compete in bikini. It was our first show together. She's a natural competitor, and so she was planning to do bikini at the natural show on Sunday to qualify for the Pittsburgh. Daniela, great little physique, great bubbly muscles, tiny waist, really pretty, like really fits the bikini division super well. And after seeing her at prejudging on Saturday, I said, man, I feel like you want to try fit model tomorrow. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, well, let's So we got her a fit model suit. We hit some poses, and I was like, man, based on this, I think your rise to the top will be much quicker. So I see you getting your pro card this year in fit model. It's probably going to be at least a year or two more of building if you want to get it in bikini. So she switched. She won the whole show. And now we're going to Pittsburgh with a little bit of momentum. We'll see what happens in the natural fit model world, what kind of conditioning they want. But I think that might be a common occurrence is, you know, like you said, Evan, you can't cross over. So pick one show, try the other next.
Yeah. Hey, quick shout out before we go to Pittsburgh to my client, Stacy, who won the overall at the show in Arizona this last weekend. It was only her second show ever, and bright future ahead of her. So congratulations to her.
She's a good one. And that was a big show. There was a lot of competitors at that show. And I think I saw she got a free paid entry for the Amateur Olympia. I don't know if she's going to wait that long, but
yeah, it's funny. We talked about that. I was like, I don't know why they would give it to that show, which is months and
probably
months
their show, or they're probably associated with it.
But yes, she wants to do it, so we're going to work on a game plan to get her to do that. So that's what we talked about yesterday. Yep.
I mean, that gives you a lot of time to make improvements and come back. And so, and then I know, Lexi, you've had some success recently. Any client wins?
Yeah, I had 2 clients. Well, I had 3 clients compete this past weekend. 2 of them both got first in their classes. One of them's coming to Pittsburgh this weekend. So I have 1 girl in bikini at Pittsburgh and then 1 girl in fit model for Pittsburgh. I think they're both bringing really good looks. So I'm excited.
Awesome.
I had one of the girls that I had compete at Emerald. She did fit model first show, got first in her true novice class. And I mean, she's got some of the prettiest posing I've seen. She has a dance background, but she wants to try bikini as well. Just why not for our first season? Because she actually has worked with me for a while, and when she started with me, her goal was to do bikini, and then fit model was announced, and we kind of decided to try it out for her first show. And she actually competed with her mom because her mom is a bikini pro and competed at the Emerald Cup with her. So that was kind of cool.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely. At first, when this division was announced, I was like, man, what is, but I'm literally becoming a fan as I watch them on stage. I'm like, wow, they actually look really good. I actually like the stallion front pose. I don't remember liking it back in the day, but I like it now. I think it's flattering.
I think it's definitely flattering when people know how to hold it properly. Like,
Yeah.
I actually think and part of this could just because I'm so used to doing the bikini front pose, but I actually think it's a little bit more challenging than the bikini front pose because of how much you have to like push into your back hip and twist. It's like a hinge and a twist. And, you know, some girls can do that really well and their waist looks amazing. Other girls struggle with that. So it's like, if you struggle with that, it doesn't look as flattering. But I'm excited, honestly, to see, as I'm bringing one of my fit model girls to Pittsburgh this weekend, like I'm excited to see what Sandy and Tyler reward for fit model this weekend. You know, we've seen a lot of fit model. Well, I don't say a lot, but we've seen many more fit model shows, and I still feel like they've been small. So sometimes what's being rewarded doesn't always fit the criteria 100%. So I'm excited to see what shows up this weekend at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm very interested. Like, I think I may have talked about this last week, but I had a girl do the pro qualifier in Portugal last week or 2 weeks ago for fit model, and we had to soften her up from bikini because she did a show for bikini like I guess probably 3 weeks before that, and she still had full glute ham tie-ins and separations in her shoulders no matter what we did, and her feedback was she needed to be harder. And I told her, I was like, whatever that feedback is, that's not going to be the feedback in the future. And the girl that won that show looked like a figure competitor.
And this is what I think they're going to be afraid of, the NPC and IFBB, because your eye still goes to the leaner person.
It does.
But what I saw with a pro judge in Utah was the girls my eye went to were moved out. They did not want that. They did not want any type of any muscle movement. They wanted completely smooth. And so, yeah, that's why it's going to be great to see it in Pittsburgh.
Interesting.
And it's a natural show. So, like, it's going to be really,
Sunday is going to be a big day because we got Pro Bikini, which is what I'm excited to see, and then the natural pro qualifier. So do you guys want to do, because part of our Q&A, I did get from one of my clients. She asked if we had any bikini predictions. So do you guys want to just...
I actually wrote down, I said, screw it. Let me just write down my placings in order.
Okay.
Because like this list, I had to go through it multiple times and make sure I wasn't missing people.
Same, same. Do you guys want to go around and like give our top, you want to give top 3 or like
I'll
top?
just do top 3 because, you
Sure,
know,
yeah.
a lot of these people are my friends. I don't want to insult people and do all the way to the top 15 or whatever, but
Oh yeah, yeah.
because there are some big names. And here's the thing, guys, these are predictions just based on what we see and what we hear and what we're looking at online. And things can change drastically because it matters what they look like on the day of the show. And honestly, I think the top 6 or 8 could realistically win the show.
Yeah. I got my top 3.
Under the right conditions. However, I'm pretty staunch on my top 3. I don't think there's any way these aren't the top 3. So
I didn't even think about it until I just looked at the list and I already got my top 3. So I'm interested.
Okay, so let's all say who we think is going to be number 1.
Marine.
Marine. Yep.
Yeah. Like, she has not competed in over a year and a half. She's super fresh. I just saw she did a video with Brett Contreras. I saw a story she posted. Like, she doesn't miss.
No.
We've never seen her on stage even slightly off. Every show I've ever seen her at, she was on.
The
Olympia,
show.
where she was a little too dark.
The Battle of the Bodies where Daraja got second to her.
That's debatable. She still won.
Yeah, I was just still won. Yeah, but I don't.
I thought Daraja was better that day.
Yes,
but the week before she had gotten second to Laura Lee in Chicago.
Yeah.
Then she got first over Daraja. Then Daraja beat Laura Lee at Tampa the next week. Like, yeah. Think about that.
I just don't think that was her best look at that show.
You know, back then, as a coach, sometimes you get those coaches goggles. I'd have to look at the pictures. I thought Daraja was better that day. I thought she had a better upper body. Yeah. And I still contend if you change the judge out, I think Daraja would have won that day because clearly Daraja beat Laura Lee and Jennifer Dory a week later. She was on. And she had just won a show the week before.
That's the only, because I was there with you, Paul. I was sitting like right there. And that's the only time I was like, ugh, I don't know about that one. But that's the only time I can even think of.
Yeah, but if that's her being off and she won, like she's on. She's consistent.
Yes.
I'm gonna you know what? I'm gonna call an upset at number 2.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm putting Ashlyn at number 2.
Okay.
She's my number 2 as well.
Here's why.
I'm gonna be the outlier. I'm gonna say Amy, number 2.
Of course, but Amy has the better track record. She's won this show 2 years in a row. She's technically probably ranked higher than Ashlyn, but I've seen Ashlyn progress and I've seen Amy kind of regress a little bit, right? So I loved Amy's look at the Arnold, but I didn't love it at the Olympia. So it's just a matter of, I feel like Ashlyn's really starting to come into her own and like find that consistency. We'll see. Could obviously go, but I think we've all just clearly defined our top 3. Maureen, Amy, and Ashlyn.
I was going to say Ashlyn is number 3, but yeah, I mean, and I'm curious because I do agree with you, like to your point about we sometimes have seen Amy regress a little bit or more so recently, but I'm curious because she didn't do Wasatch this year and she normally does do it. So I'm wondering if strategically she's just kind of laid low between, now and the Arnold just strategically so she doesn't regress. So I'll be curious.
Well, might not be a great move because she's not Olympia qualified, and if she doesn't win this show, she's not Olympia qualified, so she's going to have to do another show after this.
Yeah.
So Maureen is qualified based on her winning the Olympia. Amy, Ashlyn, Maria Acosta, Evie Eskandar are not qualified. No, Evie just won a show. And I can't even speak about Maria. She won a show already too, didn't she?
Yeah. I'll tell you my reason. I think that Ashlyn's gonna land in that second spot, and maybe actually closer to winning than anything. She's been on that upward trajectory, and every time I've ever seen Tyler give feedback on her, it's pretty much glowing. And when it comes to Amy, there's a lot of it's positive, but there's also a lot of inconsistencies with how she hits her pose and coming in a little too tight, a little too hard. He always has more feedback for her than Ashlyn. And so that's my
I feel like Amy, the last couple times I've seen her, the balance is getting thrown off a little bit. She's a little too muscular in certain areas.
And look, Ashlyn's muscular. Like she's got some muscle.
No, she's muscular, too, right? But for whatever reason on her frame, it flows really well.
She looks like she has very small joints and her muscles are bubbly and they're not overly hard. When she first got started, I feel like she was way too hard. I feel like that's kind of gone from her now. She's softened it up a little bit with adding a little more muscle. So
Well,
she's
this
not
is
having
why
to get
I
as
love when I talk
conditioned.
to Cash. Cash has a similar philosophy. Get down and then feed them. So
Hmm.
his girls are eating in. They're always full. It kind of, I think it backfired with Jasmine at the Arnold because he was feeding her, but she was getting harder. So she was probably a
Yeah.
little overly conditioned. But, you live, you learn, and the body changes from prep to prep. And that's, someone like Jordan Brannon, who at the Arnold was way too hard, and then at the Wasatch a couple weeks ago was a little too soft. She might find the right formula, for this show and be in that top 3 or 4. Maria Costa, Evie Eskandar. Evie just won a show. Maria Costa just won a show. Ariana just won a show. And then you've got someone who was in the first call-outs at the Olympia, didn't stay in the top 10, but Ali Vathauer coming back.
Yeah.
Um, and she's got structure, muscle insertions, beauty that matches anybody. So if she's on,
Yeah.
she's going to be in that conversation. And even
And
Alice Roca was just right there with Ari at the Girl Power.
Alice looked great there too. Yeah, I think it's inconsistency with her front post too at Girl Power, but her conditioning was spot on too. And then when I saw Allie there too, granted she went on stage, but you could just look at somebody and tell when they're ready, and she was ready then. So
Yeah, I
I'm
saw
excited to see what
Yulia
she's
at the
look.
show this weekend. She
Julia
came
too.
out to the
Yeah.
show in Boca, and I could see in her face. I was like, "What are you doing?" She's like Pittsburgh. I was like, "Oh, it makes sense."
Yeah.
And Lexis Redmond is on this list too. And she, I know we saw her at Girl Power, and she could
I
very
think she was just
well
she was
too.
just a little flat. I think she was just a little flat there.
Yeah.
I'm
Because her
guessing if she was
glutes
a little
deflated when
flat,
she
she
walked.
wasn't quite as lean enough as she needed to be. So now she's had a couple more weeks to get leaner. Now she can be fuller, safer, maybe.
From the
We're looking
front, she
at
was dialed in, yeah.
these
Just
are
a little
like,
flat from
well,
the back.
because she got second at this show last year, I believe, or third. Like she was right in that
Was she?
top mix, Lexus. So she's another one that when she puts it all together, she's impossible to ignore. She literally has no waist.
I know.
She had that wow at Girl Power when she walked out. I was like, okay, wow. So, I mean, she had that wow factor when
Yeah,
she walked out there. Just I felt like her glutes deflated a little bit when she walked. That's the only
yeah.
reason
That
I
I mean,
didn't think
that's the
she
knock
was
on her
up there.
physique. Your eye goes a little bit more to her quad than her glutes, but it's gotten better over time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 10 women that we just said that are Olympians and good ones.
Crazy.
There aren't going to be 10 people in that first call out. So I'm guessing they usually do 8 or 9 in that first call out. Last year, I think they did 8 or 9.
Oh,
They'll be an even. They'll do an even
we
for sure.
didn't even say too. I know she's I mean she's I think she's Olympia qualified for next year. Don't quote me though. Jessica Wilson, she's also on this list too.
Hmm.
So
I mean, listen, she's
I
another
think
one.
she is. You're right.
She's been defying age.
I know.
And shout out to the kindest human ever, by the way, Jessica
Of
Wilson.
course, Jessica
Oh my
is a
God.
big fan of Jessica's. If you ever see her at a show, please just go talk to her. She is a lovely human being.
You will never regret that. She is a lovely human
She's
being.
one of those girls too, when you see her walking around, you're like, oh, do you compete? And then she gets on stage, you're like, what in the blue hell? Like she has huge glutes, beautiful lines. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
her shape is crazy.
it is. It is. Well, do you guys want to do some rapid fire questions? I have like over 20, so I know we're not going to get to all of them.
Yeah, I got a bunch too. So let's each pick a couple and like the best ones.
Okay. Okay, so I have an interesting one, and I was actually thinking about this a lot yesterday. And so I kind of want to start with this one because I think it's very prevalent, honestly, with any job nowadays. But this person, it was my client, and she asked, will AI ever be a tool to replace or aid in human, or like will AI or chat GPT ever replace like coaches, like fitness coaches? So I think this is a very valid question. But I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts because I have thoughts on this particularly.
I think it can replace meal plans from coaches. I think it could do that. I think there's just way too many factors that play into that as far as the human body and how it works and what our resting metabolic rate is. And look, you can test your resting metabolic rate. I've done that. I don't think it was accurate at all. I think there's way too many factors that play into that. It just depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to shed a few pounds, maybe. If your goal is to compete, no, I don't think so.
There's already AI like coaching like applications where, you know, you can get automated coaching.
Yeah.
That's not going to ever, it'll never replace prep coaching, because prep coaching is so specific. It's not just physically losing more weight. It's mentally managing the process. It's keeping an athlete healthy. And yeah, I think AI is great for improving the process as a coach. I use it for some situations to help me do my job, but it's, I guess you never want to say never.
I'm kind of in agreement with you guys exactly. I was thinking about it yesterday and I was like, I think maybe for like if somebody is just like a general kind of lifestyle client wanting just, oh, I want to do a fat loss phase, but I don't think it would ever replace prep coaching, because I feel like the longer I coach, the more I realize that psychology and being able to like read somebody mentally, and just kind of we all get those gut instincts sometimes too, especially with prep clients, when we just know something's off with this person, let me reach out or whatnot. Like, I don't think AI could ever replace that. I just feel like there's too much psychology that goes into, I mean, all coaching, but especially prep coaching, so I just don't see AI replacing that effectively.
Yeah, I think, like, if you want to go scary, here's the scary thought. You actually have some type of artificial intelligence that's listening to you speak to your clients, and over weeks and months, it starts to predict what you're going to say to your clients based on their check-ins. And then maybe, right? Like if you want to be like scary, super computer futuristic stuff, you can turn yourself based on, think about it. Like that's
No.
possible.
Well, I always
Yeah.
think about this, like this is a really scary thought, because like I remember when I was in high school, that I always felt guilty because I would use Google, for like when I needed like quick answers for homework and whatnot. But now I think like our future doctors are in school and they have Chat GPT AI at their leisure. Isn't it kind of scary to think like our future doctors are learning from that, and that's how they're like getting like some of them are getting through school? Like, that's a very scary thought to me.
I think it's actually great, to be honest with you, compared to what a lot of doctors, and look, I'm not anti-doctor, but
No.
um, a lot of the way they look at things is so antiquated these days. And it's nice to see that there's other things out there. And especially, I was talking to a guy the other day who wanted to come um, shadow at the pharmacy, and was talking to us. And he said that his professors in college are actually pushing them to use AI. They're
Hmm,
pushing them to use it. It's like if you aren't getting pushed to use this and make it a part of your tool set here, you're going to be left behind.
interesting.
You need to understand the basis behind things, but it is a valuable tool. It's like not using a calculator back in the day,
Very true.
right? Like you
Yeah.
need to understand the basics of math and addition, but the
Remember, the teachers are
calculator,
like, you're not going to always have a calculator with you. Whoops.
yep.
Oh my
Oops, aren't
gosh,
they wrong,
that
right?
always makes me laugh. Yeah. But no, that
Yeah,
was like just a very thought-provoking question, but that I wanted to start with. But
it's a
what
good
do you,
one.
Evan, do you have a good one?
Yes. Do you think more natural bikini girls would go to natural federations like the OCB to stay in bikini? I would have said probably yes before the big push for the natural divisions here. But with the natural divisions, I think a lot more people are coming over to the NPC rather than leaving it right now. And I think that's a very smart push by them.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's nothing wrong with the OCB. I mean, I've had clients compete in OCB, but not for nothing, there's less OCB shows to choose from. And not to sound vain or anything, but I know this is important to competitors. They don't always, there's not, you don't get the pictures afterwards like you do on NPC News Online. There's no, Gilco videos. Like, some competitors honestly pick their shows based off of if Gilco is going to be there, and they're going to be able to get that video. And you don't really get that with a lot of the natural federations, unfortunately.
No, why would you want to put all that effort into a show and then go get some grainy pictures with a horrible backdrop in a
Right.
school auditorium when you could go get Gilco's videos from 20 different angles from you in a highlight reel? Like, who would want to do with all things considered being the same?
Yeah.
Well, also let's shout out Phil from PCS. It's not just Gilco, guys. There's more than one.
Yes. Yes. Phil is great.
He was
Gilco,
at the show this weekend, and that's why I
yeah,
brought him up. Um,
he's great too.
so I actually had a competitor this weekend at her first ever show get her WNBF Pro Bikini card,
Oh, cool.
Canada. So she did the same show. I didn't know, but Will Tennyson, the YouTuber, was there. But she won her Bikini Pro card there. And that in lies the problem. Like when people are like, oh, why don't more people do like the natural organizations? Listen, they're wonderful. They have some great shows, great venues. It's a much different environment. It's much more like family and everyone's friends. But you can literally be world champion in 2 shows. You're not doing that in the IFBB.
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah.
So even people that come over from the other pro leagues, it takes them a while. You know, you see like Michael
Perfect.
Crizzo,
Mr. Everything. That man never lost a show.
never lost a show. Now he's fighting for like top 10 at the Olympia.
Yeah.
So, and you know, he had to win his pro card, which was no problem. He had to win a pro show, which was no problem. But now he's in a bigger pool. And so,
And at
you
this
know,
show, he probably won't be top 5 at this show
right.
this weekend.
So I've had actually world champions in every natural organization, the NGA, the OCB, the WMBF. And when they do that, they're like, what's next? What's next? Right? Like, because that's kind of the thing. And so you see a lot of these, we saw it last year. You guys weren't at the Ben Weider, but the Ben Weider was 1 week before WNBF Worlds. And for those that are like not familiar with natural bodybuilding, WNBF Worlds is a true world championship. They had 30 athletes from China, 30 from Australia, 15 from Germany, bunch from Italy, Sweden. They have natural bodybuilding in these countries. And so when you get worlds, there was like 300 or 400 natural competitors at the
Super
world
cool.
championships. A lot of the athletes from the Ben Weider that turned pro went to the worlds and won worlds, right? So they're already starting to mingle that. The better athletes from the natural organizations are dipping their toe in the NPC to see if they can get their pro card, right? So I think there's room for both, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it depends on your goals, right? And what's important to you.
If you are promoting a natural show right now, you better have your crap together because the
Yes.
NPC has it together.
I had a guy that competed in a natural organization in Hawaii end of last year. And then there was the show, the Stingray a few weeks ago over there.
You're talking about your guy that the classic physique guy.
No. This is another guy. No, that's
Okay.
Nate. No, this is another guy. He's an older gentleman, and he said, I don't know. These guys it wasn't a natural show. It was an untested show.
Oh, okay.
And he went over and he did that show, and he won the first show that he did on that natural organization. He went over there and got 4th and was like, thank you so much for talking me into this. This show experience was so much better. He didn't come close to doing as well as he did in the first show with it, just because the experience of that show was better.
Yeah.
All right. So my question, I got a bunch of like varied. One question I got, which I can answer in one sentence. Are you qualified to go to nationals if you're the only one in your class and you win? If you're at a national qualifier, you are technically qualified. Should you go to nationals? That is going to be determined by the quality of your physique. I've seen competitors at small shows that absolutely are ready for nationals. And I've seen athletes win overalls that shouldn't even be winning novices. So just depends. This is where a coach, the feedback from the judges, and honestly, NPC News Online are your friend.
Yeah. No, I got that same question. It was probably from the same person.
Yep. Okay, so my actual question, what would you recommend in a cutting phase? Lowering the fats or lowering the carbs? The answer is both.
Yes. Well, and it
Okay.
depends also where you're starting from. So like if your fats are already, we have our thresholds. I know that anytime in prep, we're not, as coaches, we will get below 40 grams of fat, but that's, usually where we kind of start to do it in spurts and be
Pay attention. Yep.
Yeah. So it's like if you're starting a cut and you're at, let's say 50 grams of fat, right? Maybe we don't pull down fats immediately. Maybe if your carbs are at like 250, we start pulling those down first. So I think it depends like threshold wise where you're at first. But ultimately the carbs and the fats are going to be the main 2 variables that we're manipulating macro wise from cut versus not being in a cut. I don't know about you guys, but I don't generally change protein a ton depending on if a client is in prep or if they're not in prep.
I've started to vary protein a little bit with some of my athletes, depending on like if their energy is a little bit low and we're having to push carbs down and I need calories to stay in a certain range. Sometimes I will push, because carbs are protein sparing. So sometimes I'll push protein down under 1 per gram to get the carbs up on a refeed day. Sometimes I have started to do that, and I found it helps a lot with digestion too. a lot of times. So
Yep.
I've started to do that, but that's more towards when like I'm trying to worry about every calorie
Yeah.
sort of situation.
Yeah, I'll pull down protein a little bit usually on refeed days, again to help with that digestion, but it doesn't change as much as carbs and fats do.
No way.
I've said from the beginning of the first time I ever did my bodybuilding prep, the hardest macronutrient to control was fat. Once you start managing your fat at, let's say, 50 grams a day, you don't have to worry about eating clean because you got no choice. Fat is the hardest damn macro to avoid because it's in protein, it's in carbs, right? And so when you start to control fat, everything else just kind of clicks into place, you know? Yeah. And also, if you're estimating on fat, the likelihood of going over calories is way more likely. So
I think it depends what type of foods you eat because I've also had some clients that really struggle to hit fats, but they're generally the people that, they never eat out, but then they just opt generally for like the leaner cuts of meat. So like whitefish, shrimp, chicken breast, egg whites, right? And in that case, I could see where it's a little bit harder to actually get in that fat, but if we're talking like the majority of people, I mean, that adds up really quickly, especially
that's what I'm saying. Like when someone's like, "Oh, coach, I don't have enough fat," I go, "Have a handful of cashews. You're done for the day." Like it's so
Yeah.
easy.
right,
Yeah,
or a tablespoon of olive oil.
Avocado, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
it's
I never
and
tell
look,
people oil because I'm such a
I know
substance person in prep. Like the idea of eating oil would just be like, "Oh man,
I only
there's a
it's a,
thousand calories."
I know. I only recommend that in like usually in like the off season if they're really struggling to hit fat. I'm like just add in a
Right.
tablespoon of coconut oil to a meal. It's a good way to get in sneaky fat. And heck, that's why, when you go out to restaurants, that's why those meals are always so high in fat is because like they cook everything in oil and butter, right? So it's a good sneaky fat source if you need one. But yeah, to answer that
So I
question,
got a question that I think maybe it'll be a common theme amongst all of us for today, and I think maybe it can be the title of the video. How long do I need to wait to compete in a show? Fit model or bikini?
like, are we talking, okay, so let's set the scene. So are we talking potential first time competitor wanting to know how long do I need to wait to compete if I want to do fit model versus bikini?
Let's go with that.
Okay. So, I mean, this is a great question. And I don't know about you guys. I mean, I know Evan, you and I work a little bit more with like newer first time competitors, but I mean, it's going to be so dependent on where we're starting. I would say the majority of people, though, that come to me with the intention of wanting to compete for the first time don't have enough muscle for bikini yet. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't do bikini, but we're probably going to need at least minimum a year of growing before we even get on stage for bikini, right? So we're talking like competing maybe middle later of 2026. Whereas if somebody wants to compete sooner, and they have a muscular base, it's not like they're starting from ground zero, we could get them on stage a little bit sooner in fit model. But it's just so dependent on where the person is starting. Like, are they brand new to the gym? Because that's going to be a totally different answer. But if there's somebody who's been lifting, they have a decent amount of muscle, then I would go with what I just said.
I think it goes into kind of two different camps on what the person's goal is initially. Do they just want to get on stage and try to see if they like it? I can tell you most people enjoy the process a lot more if they do well, right? Like a lot of people say, "Hey, I just want to get on stage and see if it's good," and I want to do bikini. Bikini is a long-term goal. I'm like, cool, it's a long-term goal, but we are a long way from that long-term goal. And that is a vast majority of girls. The vast majority of girls I see at NPC shows are a long way from the bikini standard at the national level, the vast majority of them.
And
So,
this is why I think people need to go to shows because
yes.
you can literally be a pretty novice competitor, to the gym, a year or less with training and have like maybe a background in playing sports, but you've just been, okay, let me try to put a little muscle on. Go in and do the novice, the true novice and the open at your first show. And if you've got decent shape and a little bit of base of muscle, you're going to get looked at, right? Are you going to win the overall? No, but you don't have to win the overall to have a successful first show because you
Yeah.
might find out you don't even like the damn sport. So
Yep.
yeah, I've had girls that were so pent up about competing. I got them on stage and then they literally got off and go, "I don't want to do this anymore." And I'm like, "Cool. I'm glad we did this then instead of spent 2 years of your life building to
Mhm.
The girl that won the overall Saturday at the show I was at, it was her first show ever. However, let me say this. Her husband won the classic physique overall. This chick was jacked. Like backstage was borderline too muscular for bikini, but when she posed, great balance, great shape, great symmetry. So for her, that was the first show was ridiculous, but I think it's because of, the influence she had potentially with her husband. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know their story. I just saw them backstage and I saw, oh, well, he won classic. She's a first time competitor. Obviously, she had some good, um, but the girl that got second in the overall, my Josephine, it's like our eighth or ninth show, and she was polished. She was
Mhm.
fantastic. She just wasn't as muscular as this girl. So guess what we're gonna do? Build and come back in 6 months, right? So like everybody has a different journey. This girl's probably going to go to nationals and turn pro at her second show, if I had to guess. Josephine's going to wait another 6 months to get the overall and then try for the pro card. That's everyone's different journey. It doesn't mean you can't compete or you shouldn't compete to your
Yeah.
ready.
Right, right. And that's why like I'm so happy that Fit Model now is an option, right? Like it does give girls the chance to get on stage a little bit sooner to see if they like the idea of getting on stage because not for nothing like the suit is a lot cheaper and it's just it doesn't you don't have to spend as much on the show experience if you do Fit Model versus bikini. So rather than like waiting for 2 years building for bikini and then getting on stage and potentially not liking it, like Fit Model allows you to just get that feeling of what it feels like.
Just so you know, Lexi, the woman that won the overall on Saturday at the show I was at was literally wearing an off the rack suit from like Target.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna have
It
to look.
wasn't it wasn't form fitting. It was like a lilac suit. And when I got up close to her, I was like, oh, she's just wearing something from the beach.
Interesting.
Most of the girls are wearing like those metallic, they're
I
form
got, yeah.
fitting.
Yeah, the
This was
hologram.
this was a straight up cloth bikini. I was like, oh,
Interesting.
it
Interesting.
reminded me of when bikini first came out and girls would literally go to Target and then go up on stage.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that's I don't personally, I'm not a big fan of like the hologram fit model bikini
Really?
trend.
I
Because
think they look good under the lights.
yeah, I was gonna
Because you
say
got to
I
have some
like
depth or something because the cloth just looks like very muted. It's like, wait,
I
what am I
was
looking
gonna
at?
say the same
Okay.
thing. Originally, I was like, oh, the matte versus the hologram, I like them both. But now that I'm seeing more of the hologram on stage that has a little bit of that glisten, I like it a lot more. I think it just pops a little bit more.
The cuts of the professional fit model suits are very nice. Like they come up and they go across. If you wear an off the rack suit, it's just kind of bunched up and it looks
Yeah.
um I think early on it's not going to matter. The physiques are going to be determined the winners. But you know how this sport is. Some suit maker somewhere is going to figure out a way to make these suits just a little bit nicer and then a little
Mhm.
bit nicer, right? And so they're gonna weave in some fabric or they're going to make it something. But I think it's a great entry level option for sure. So,
Agreed.
I mean,
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
were girls, and I'm not going to, if you go to these shows, you'll see girls on stage that you'll be like, have they ever even lifted?
Yeah.
And they look okay. They look fine. You don't need to look like, Miss Bikini Olympia to do your first show.
And
Right.
I think that's my thing too. And which division would you want to fall into? And that's kind of where I get is I think most people are going to be happier with a better placing than say somebody needs a significant amount of muscle to be successful in bikini, but that's their goal in bikini, but they've never competed before. I think something like Fit Model is better for them because they're more likely to place better in that than they are in something if they
Yeah.
just lack the muscle.
And
And
I
then
will
because
say for
that
those of
builds
you
momentum, right? That builds
those
momentum. It
of you
builds.
worried about competing at your first show and you're young, they really place an emphasis on skin quality and like beauty in the novice divisions. I've seen some amazing masters competitors not do well in novice because the girls had way less muscle, but just very kind of like great skin and a great beautiful look and a nice shape. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a quick question. This person asked, what are our thoughts on alcohol in the off season or improvement season?
No problem with it. I mean,
No, I mean, live your life. If you want to be, look, there are some people who don't drink in this world at all, and that's totally fine. If that brings them joy, good. There's people that drink every weekend to the point of excess. If that brings them joy, good. I don't think drinking to excess every weekend is going to help your bodybuilding career if that's the main goal for you. But having some drinks here and there, look, it, I don't think it's a big deal at all. Like none.
I will say this. I don't know about you guys, but I tend to find that whenever I have athletes that come to me or just even lifestyle clients, maybe they drink on occasion when they first come to me. And then they quickly learn, they're like, ooh, they start to kind of take inventory of how they feel after they drink and how it impacts their training and their sleep and their recovery. And I've had many people that, not that like I've enforced this on them by any means, but they'll just say, Lexi, I'm decided I'm not going to drink anymore. Like it makes me feel way better. And there's literally nothing good that comes from when I drink. And I support that decision. I just feel like I've seen that case scenario happen a lot with not even just prep clients, but lifestyle clients too.
Yeah. The first time I ever didn't drink for an extended period of time. So I was 31 when I did my first prep. That was the first time I stopped drinking for probably more than a week, right? Like, I mean, I was a social guy in my 20s. Like I was going out weekends, probably 2 to 3 nights a week. I was going out and having drinks, sometimes more than that, sometimes less. I didn't have a drink for 6 months, and I didn't really realize how much better I felt because
Oh yeah.
I associated it with prep. Oh man, I feel great on Sunday morning. I feel great after my cardio session. I feel great that I'm hitting my macros. I think looking back, I felt great because I didn't have a drink for 6 months. So yeah, listen, I think if you want to be the absolute pinnacle of the version you can be, alcohol should be avoided. But I also think like we're human beings and you need to experience life on your terms. And if that means having some drinks every now and then, God damn it, go have some drinks. Like I love a good margarita, but I probably cut myself off at 2.
Yeah. Well, this person also asked another question, and I know what we're all going to say it's very similar. And she asked diet soda in prep. And I know we're all going to be saying, yes, that's fine. Paul, I know you love your diet soda in prep.
You know, fitness influencing, which wasn't even a thing when I started making YouTube videos and Instagram. I was just sending content to help people out. The amount of like tribalism that exists in this space is just ridiculous. So like in prep, I'll probably have 3 or 4 a day. I'll have one between my meals, a 12-ounce Coke Zero. I'll have a Sprite Zero in the evening because I like the bubbles without the caffeine. Yeah, like I don't see where the issue is with that. They're absolutely wonderful for hunger, for little sweetness. Yeah, never
Yeah,
understood.
it's just like why deprive yourself if you don't need to? I mean, maybe for some people you need to, moderation. So because sometimes too much of the sparkling drinks can cause some digestion issues, or bloating, but I don't see why somebody would need to just make themselves miserable and cut it out for no reason.
I
Man,
think
I've seen the plans. We've all seen the plans, right? Evan, no mustard, no salt,
No
no
food.
diet soda, no fruit.
Yeah.
no
Well,
sodium. Yeah, that's my first ever plan.
Because you're harder.
I heard actually on that topic, I heard something interesting yesterday, and I'm going to keep this anonymous, of course, but because she's probably listening. But I had a client, and it was very interesting because she was telling me about her plan that she had come from, and it said a lot of those same things. And I said, did you like it was said like no fruit or no shrimp? I think was one of them too. And I was like, well, that's interesting. I'm like, did you ask your coach why? Like, just curious, what was the rationale behind that? And she's like, I think it was just because they like couldn't tolerate fruit or shrimp, so they took it out like on us and didn't want us to have it on our plan. I'm like, that's very interesting, but I hadn't heard that one before. But yeah.
That also the one thing that kind of drives me nuts is there's no logical reason why you would have that, but that also that client is projecting why that person had that on there. Just ask your coach. Be like, why is this not on there?
Oh, no, she
Right?
did.
Like,
No,
why
she
is
did
this
that.
not on there?
No,
Yeah, I would
she
just
did
say,
that. Yeah, she did ask, and I just thought that was a weird reason. It wasn't like because normally
oh, that she asked, and that was the coach's answer.
yeah, like they didn't tolerate that food or food group in their own like protocol, so they just that's what they so then they kind of took
Wow.
it on
Wow,
all.
that makes no sense.
Yeah, right. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting, but yeah.
Yeah, I think when it comes to diet sodas and things like that, I think they're totally fine. Look, if you have it, you feel like it upsets your stomach or it feels like it bloats you, then don't have it, right? But if
Yeah.
you've It's also, though, I typically find it's not that, it's a bunch of other things, because people don't just do diet sodas. They have a pack of gum a day, then they have sugar-free sweeteners
Yeah.
on
And
everything, and then they,
The Walden Farms is a big one.
yes, or the GQ sauce, and it's like literally everything ends up being some sort of artificial sweetener in every single solitary meal. And if that's the case on it, yeah, you're probably gonna have some digestive issues, because anything, too much of anything is typically going to cause that. And the only other time I do see it's an issue is people that have it that quells their thirst so much where they don't get the water and they need to get in for the day. And that's a lot of people. They're like,
Um,
oh, I can't get my water, and I can't get a gallon of water a day, or I can't get 3 liters of water in a day. But they can get 4 Diet Cokes in, but they can't get 3 liters of water. And they're doing a bunch of cardio.
Hey,
It's like,
three
well,
Diet
we
Coke
probably need a little more.
ounces. All right, buddy.
I
Don't
will
What's that?
I will say, I always look forward to a good, like, I love, one thing I love about flying on Southwest is I always look forward to getting a good can of Diet Coke. It's just like, I don't know. I always look forward to drinking that on my flight.
Yeah. I don't really keep diet sodas because y'all know what I do with my like
Lexi
sparkling
is
waters and
such a
things. But
grandma. I love that she's
I
like,
But I
am.
do get them on flights, though. I do.
And I
me
always
and Evan
ask,
are like, can we get drink tickets?
ask too. My thing
Bloody
is,
Marys.
I always ask for them to just bring me the
Can.
Diet Coke in a can because I don't really like it on ice because I feel like I have to like rush and drink it. And plus, I just like it out of the can. So
Plus, wherever they keep those cans, they're freezing cold. They keep them in like the part of the plane where like it's cold because they're
uh,
like frozen. Yeah.
they always bring it to me in their pocket. Like they'll have it
Yeah.
in their little pocket and they'll just take it out. They always look at me weird because I'm like, can I have a Diet Coke, but just keep it in the can? They're like, okay. But yeah, that's my thing. So
Their job's easier.
yeah.
When I
You
was
guys,
a bartender in London, people would want Red Bull vodka, but they would want a shot of Red Bull and like the shot of vodka and the can of Red Bull.
oh,
Smart.
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. You guys each want to do one more question?
Yeah, I'm good. I have a bunch. It's they're so all over the place.
I know I got a lot too. I'll probably answer some of them on my Instagram.
Here's one. Is there a formula to calculating depletion carbs during peak week? You know, my formula is basically so when we're talking about depletion, not everybody depletes. So what this person is talking about, I don't know, maybe I've done some videos and they've watched them. The weekend before the show, so if the show is Saturday, the previous Saturday, Sunday, I'm usually using that as a weekend off of lifting, doing lots of activity and being fairly low carb so that I'm just ramping up the metabolism, cleaning up the digestive system so that I can start walking food up from a low baseline of muscle fullness. And I want to walk it up from Monday all the way to the show. You can't slam too much food on Friday because your digestive system crashes if you deplete Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? I've tried it all ways. We're not rookies over here. If you gradually bring the food up, you can slam food on Friday because why? Your digestive system's been awakened. So I love this idea of most people at their first show aren't truly ready the weekend before. You get them that little like rah speech. We're a week out. Let's do some cardio. Let's do low carbs. And I just find it gets things going. And then usually what happens is the week of the show, as the food goes up, the digestion improves, the metabolism improves, the sleep improves, the weight starts dropping. And it's like this Jedi mind trick of the body going, wow, I'm waking up, I'm looking better every day. So what are those numbers? I don't like keto, so I'm never going to go below like 50 grams of carbs on a depletion day. But probably somewhere between 50 and 100, depending on that person's metabolism. For women, I mean, I've depleted on 200 carbs in certain preps when I was just humming. And if I went below 200, I crashed, I died. But, just depends.
Yeah. Some people need depletion, some people don't need depletion, right? It
Yeah.
just depends on the person. I can tell you some people, and the longer you work with somebody, the more you learn this, is some people, if you deplete a little bit too much, then it gets their metabolism ramping up almost too much to where you can't feed them enough.
Right.
And that kind of gets the runaway freight train. And I'm kind of dealing with a little bit
Yeah,
of that right now.
that's
with
Miriam
one client.
Jenkins for me. Miriam, I can't deplete her too hard the weekend before because she'll literally be dropping weight the day before the show on 250, 300 carbs. Her digestion kind of messes with her. And if her glutes start to striate, I'm like, oh, I can't feed her more because her belly will bloat. It's like this weird place to be. So yeah, I don't like to deplete or, push too hard with her. But that's, again, we've done probably 15, 20 shows together, maybe more.
I mean, I got a girl doing that Pittsburgh Natural this weekend that today she is on 350 grams of carbs plus burger and fries on top of all of that on a Tuesday.
I want to go to lunch with her.
on a Tuesday. Because if not, she's going to wake up 3 pounds down tomorrow. So
Right.
it sounds fun when you have to eat a lot of food going into a show, but it gets to a point to where it can get difficult.
Oh, I always say that. It's way more difficult to peak an athlete whose metabolism is starting to run away,
Yeah.
because you got to like, honestly, like you got to check them right before bed and right when they wake up.
Yep.
Yep. Evan, do you have a last good one?
Yeah, I think this is a decent one here is what are some signs that an athlete is spilling?
I mean, I think oh, my recall is terrible. What's the name of that artist? Blurred Lines. I don't know what's that song.
Oh,
I know what you're talking about. I don't
It
know.
was a
I
really
know the
popular
song.
song, and I can't think of his name. And I was going to say so and so said it best, but blurred lines really
Yeah.
is when you're spilling. The definition of spilling is when the carbohydrates are leaching out of the muscle, which means it's going to take the water out of the muscle. And so now you have water in between the skin and the muscle. That's
Yeah.
it. Most
And
people are still flat. They think they're spilling, but they're super flat when they wake up.
yeah, I think that's a really good sign of it. Typically, if you are spilling too, the weight is going to be elevated. That's going to be part of
Yep.
it too. And you're also not going to feel tight at all. It's going to feel like you're flat, but your weight's going to be elevated. I think that's typically an easy way to kind of look at it.
yeah.
And you can fix a spill if you have time. The best thing to do is go get a workout in and sweat. Now the
Yep.
problem is if you have a tan on and makeup, problem.
Yeah,
But
I sit in like a sauna to sweat it out.
yeah, pull that water out of the skin. It'll correct itself. Like if you wake up the morning of the show and you're spilled over, too much sodium, too much. I've had athletes go into the gym and just train until they tighten up and boom, it's right back. But you gotta have time.
Yeah, it depends how much you spilled too with that. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
can.
Well, listen, if you
What
go out the day of your show and eat 15,000 calories, that spill ain't fixing in an hour. But like if it's like just a few extra carbs that push you over, you'll be fine. Yeah.
And this goes to every client ever that reaches out after a show and they're like, look, I look so great after I ate 10,000 calories. No, you don't. You look great in your mirror when you took a picture. You don't
Yeah.
look great if you got out under those lights. It'd be a
Yeah.
very
Can we see
different
the back
situation.
pose? Can we see the tie-in still? Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Very, very different there.
Here's one we can end on. So back to kind of the fit model versus bikini talk. How to handle wanting to be shredded like bikini, but trying for a fit model show. So this person is, I'm assuming, being told that they are more fit model, but they like the look of the shredded for bikini. Maybe they're struggling mentally with not achieving that look.
First of all, ultra common feeling from girls, at least the ones I talk to. This is super duper common. They like they fit model better, but they don't want to be as soft as what is being rewarded currently.
Oh, Brooklyn told me the same thing. She's like, I am so uncomfortable doing this show. I said, I get it. She's like, I'm just uncomfortable walking out on stage looking like this. I said, listen, you're 7 pounds heavier than you were at the Arnold when you were in first call outs. I get it. But she won the whole show.
Right.
So if you're going to compete in a category, fit the criteria.
And I think that also goes down to we don't know what the true standard is going to be yet until
No.
Tyler picks it.
And it's going to change from show to show, judge to
change.
judge. And before anybody gets too caught up in that, it's the same as bikini.
Yeah, it's going to get leaner.
There is still differences from judge to judge and show to show. I've spent the better part of my career learning what judges like what, no matter what they say. But you gotta learn that, and unfortunately, it's a tough lesson to learn. But
Yeah,
I got feedback from Stacey this week in the West Coast show. They said she need more definition in her hamstrings. I said, we're not going to take that feedback there.
Like literally, you should have her record her saying that and send that to the home office, because
yes. I was like, that is not the standard.
For bikini, they do not want to see a hamstring.
That was my response to that. Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting because I had a conversation with one of my clients this weekend on the phone because we were talking about, not for nothing, but there are certain judges that, you'll get feedback sometimes, especially at maybe like smaller shows where sometimes feedback doesn't always line up, right? But But yeah, I think on the topic of that question, I think it is, I think, hard for a lot of people mentally to do fit model, knowing that like, especially if they've come from bikini and they've been really used to that shredded look. Because I think a lot of times we associate getting on stage with like, it is a grind, it is hard, right? So it's hard to sometimes mentally like flip that, like that dial in your brain and soften up. And I mean, it's the same concept. I think we've all had bikini athletes before that have maybe gotten feedback of like, hey, you need to soften up a little bit before your next show, right? And that can mentally be hard for people. It's not physically always the hardest thing, but mentally it's harder than anything. So yeah, so I guess if you're this person asking the question, just know you're not alone. I think a lot of people trying out fit model right now, especially if they've been on stage before as a prior bikini competitor, are all kind of struggling with probably the mental idea of being a little bit softer on stage, but just it's just because it's a new concept.
Yeah, and look, I think it's going to end up being leaner than what some things are being rewarded right now, but they gotta give it to somebody that's up there, right? And I think it's a mix. Once someone gets on stage that has a good amount of muscle to fill out, is it going to be etched in glute ham? No. But I
No.
think once the standard gets set, you will be able to see a little bit of separation. I don't think it's going to be just what some of it has been. But then again, I don't know, right? I don't know. I
But
don't
I
know.
think
And
the
no
way
one
you
knows.
keep, so here's my opinion, because the IFBB, and they'll say like, okay, the bikini standard is Jennifer Dory, right? Or it's Laura Lee. But then you go to every other show throughout the year, and the top 5, the top 8 are hard as nails. They go
Mhm.
to the Olympia and they do terribly. But that's not what the girls see all year long. And I swear to goodness, if you put Jennifer Dory in a show in Europe, she would look like she's not even in the same sport as those girls.
Nope.
So if she was to go over there and win, it would be like, wait, what's happening? Here's the thing. You've got to start penalizing the competitors that are really good but way too hard. Make them last. Prioritize girls that are the right conditioning, even if they don't have the right shape and muscle. Make
Yep.
those better competitors soften up. You can't give
We,
them third and fourth because they think they're on the right track.
I was sitting with a guy at Girl Power, and they were just watching the NPC side of things with it. And I'm not gonna say his name, but he was like, you know what? He's like, you hear all the stuff talking about standards on there, and there was a girl in the bikini division that looked like a figure athlete. I mean, crazy looking. And he was like, that shit's impressive, but that ain't bikini. And she was in first callouts because the other girls behind her were just not remotely in shape. But the thing is, and that's what we're talking about. It's like, but you can't reward that. Like, you can't do it. It's like a girl with a butt implant. You can't reward it. You have to put them all the way at the end of the last call out. You cannot reward it,
So
no
that's
matter
what happened
what.
at the Wasatch show. There was a girl that was probably true bikini conditioning, and she looked really good up there when she came out in the group. They put her on the end for every class she was in. Last, last, last. And I said, that's how you, and
You
that's what
have
made me
to.
think, like, that's how you get girls to not show up like that. If you put them third, they're like, ooh, okay, I was close. No, you gotta make a statement. And it's what's funny, that's what they do at the Olympia. At the
Mhm.
at the Olympia, if you show up hard, you are not even getting looked at. Like I feel like they made kind of a statement with Jasmine at the Arnold. They said, nope, you're not in that top 3. When she was third at the Olympia, not in the top 3. You came in too hard. Get out. Jordan, you're too hard. You're not in that top call out. Get out. So like, but it's just not consistent enough throughout the year
Yeah.
in bikini.
And look, as a judging perspective, I can imagine it's super difficult, like in
Of
that
course.
situation, to take someone that is honestly looks like they're like 12 weeks out from a show,
Yeah.
who is not remotely close, and put them over somebody who is very conditioned, who you know that worked hard, who you know you did all that. I
Yeah.
know that's got to be very difficult as a judge, but you, in at least my opinion, you have to do, you cannot reward at all what you say you're against. You
Right. If the
cannot.
standard for bikini is no splits in the hamstrings, no striations in the shoulders, if they have any of that, they should be, if you want girls to not bring that. But
Yes.
again and again, I saw pro bikini shows where girls who were previously like really good pros come in even harder than the year before, and they're still in the first call outs. And you're like,
Yeah.
they look like women's physique competitors. You cannot have the girls in second call outs being like, oh, that's what they want.
Yeah.
You've got to soften it up. And then what will happen is the girls that have the better structures and more muscle will soften up and they'll get into that first call out.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever. We'll see what
Grant.
happens. We'll see what happens. I
Off
mean,
our
this
soapbox.
is why we love Maureen, right? Because when we're
Yeah.
talking about the Pittsburgh Pro, she has no etched in hard lines. Like she gets a slight tie-in, but her glutes are so big and full. Tiny little waist, great shoulders.
Same with Jennifer Dory. Like that's why I think
Yeah.
she's so good up there. Like she just fits the standard and they reward it.
Yeah.
And it's
All
just
right.
hard. It's a tough job. Like the judges got a tough job. It's not easy.
All right. Let's call one surprise at the Pittsburgh Pro. Because there's always a surprise. You remember a couple of years ago, Gianna Moore got like 4.
Yeah. Oh,
He was
okay.
in that first call out with like Laura Lee and Janet, and
All right.
Ashley Kay. It was them 3 plus Liana.
All right, so we're talking about bikini division here.
One
Yeah.
surprise. Okay. All right. Are we all gonna like say it at the same time, or what are we gonna do
Yeah,
here?
on 3.
Okay, wait,
1,
wait, wait,
2.
wait. Let me just figure out who I.
Who's going to be the 4th?
Okay. Okay. I'm good.
All
At
right, you
fourth
ready?
place.
Yeah, well, let's going to say who's going to surprise us in the first call out. Who's going to be the surprise of the show?
Okay.
All right. I got Jessica Wilson.
Oh, I've got Lexus.
I got Ali Badhauer.
Oh, okay. We'll see who's right. Yay. Well,
I like it.
oh, by
All
the
right.
time.
So we have to have a gentleman's bet.
Okay.
Of those 3 competitors, whoever places the highest, what is the bet?
Paul, first of all, you can't say it's a bet after you make a decision. That has to be figured out before you make it.
I feel like
Fine.
we should
No
let our
bet.
listeners decide. I feel like we should let our listeners decide whoever gets the highest out of those 3 gets something. I feel like we should let our listeners decide. We should either have them comment below or we could put up like something on Instagram.
These are supposed to be surprises.
Well, this is going to come out after the show, so it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just got to be between us because we're not going to I don't want to put any pressure on athletes. I don't want Ali to be like, what the hell, dude?
Well, that's why we could do it afterwards. Whoever on Monday when this comes out, whoever was right, whoever's competitor placed the highest, they get something. So maybe our viewers can decide.
Maybe we record an episode with a crown on.
Yes. Right. All right, guys. Well, I hope everybody has a good rest of their Monday if they're listening to this on a Monday when it's out.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome work, guys. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Code of Pro Physique.